We see companies all around us every single day. But have you ever stopped to think about what's really holding them together? Deep down, the way an organization is structured is one of the most powerful and usually invisible forces in the entire business world. And that brings us to this huge question that every leader is wrestling with right now. In a world that's constantly changing, is that traditional top-down company an outdated relic? Or is that kind of well-oiled machine the secret sauce for success? Let's dig in.
At the heart of this whole thing, there's a fundamental choice every leader has to make. On one hand, you can build what we'll call the well-oiled machine. Every single role is perfectly defined, every process is buttoned up for maximum control. Or you can embrace controlled chaos, where you prioritize flexibility and let your people run, even if it looks a little messy from the outside.
To figure out which path is right, we're going to need a toolkit. We're going to learn how to basically deconstruct any organization, doesn't matter if it's a tiny startup or a massive corporation, into 3 core parts. This is the blueprint for how businesses actually work. And here they are. It's actually pretty simple. First, its purpose, the why. Why does it even exist? Second, its division of labor, the how. How does it get all its work done? And third, its hierarchy of authority, the who. Who's in charge? Literally every single strategic decision flows from these 3 things. So let's start with that first one, purpose. And look, this is way more than just some fluffy mission statement they slap on a website. No, this is the company's strategic North Star. It's the guide for every decision they make, from the stuff they sell to the people they bring on board. But here's the thing. As soon as you choose a purpose, you're faced with a major trade-off. A really narrow purpose, say, we make the cheapest widgets, gives you incredible focus and efficiency. The risk? Well, it's tunnel vision. You might totally miss a new technology that's about to make widgets obsolete. On the flip side, a broad purpose can be super inspiring, but you run the risk of becoming unfocused, trying to be everything to everybody. Okay, next up, division of labor. This is just a fancy way of saying how a company chops up all its work into different jobs. Are you building a team of specialists, where each person is a deep expert in one little thing? Or are you building a team of generalists, where everybody can kind of pitch in and do a bit of everything? And you guessed it, this leads to another classic dilemma. High specialization, like on an old-school assembly line, gets you amazing productivity and deep expertise. But it can create these silos where teams don't talk to each other, and honestly, the work can get pretty boring. Low specialization, on the other hand, is great for collaboration and flexibility, but you might find yourself lacking that one true expert when you have a really gnarly problem to solve. All right, our final building block, the hierarchy of authority. This is your classic org chart. It's the chain of command. Who reports to whom? Think of it like the skeleton that gives the whole organization its shape and shows how power and decisions flow through the company. A tall hierarchy with tons of layers of management gives you really tight control, which can be absolutely crucial in, say, high-risk industries. The downside? Man, decisions can take forever to get made. A flat hierarchy with fewer managers feels really empowering and things move fast. But you're always running that risk of things getting a bit chaotic and losing control. Okay, so now we have our 3 building blocks. We've got our blueprint. Now we need a way to actually analyze it. We're going to use 2 really powerful lenses from management theory that help explain why companies end up with the structures they do. Our first lens is called contingency theory. And honestly, this idea was a total game changer. It basically argues that there is no single best way to organize a company. The right structure is always contingent on the situation. Things like the market you're in, the tech you use, or even just how big you are. So what does that actually mean? It's simple. What works for a scrappy tech startup in Silicon Valley would be a complete and total disaster for a huge, stable power company. The best way to organize isn't some universal law. It depends completely on the context. Now, our second lens, institutional theory, adds this really fascinating layer. It says that companies don't just organize themselves for pure efficiency. A lot of the time, they organize to fit in. They adopt certain structures because that's what society, or investors, or customers expect a real company to look like. This is such a cool insight.
It means sometimes the best structure isn't the one that's fastest or cheapest, it's the one that just fits in and looks legitimate. It's why so many hospitals or universities or banks start to look alike over time. They're all responding to the same pressures to be seen as credible.
And all of this comes together in this brilliant idea from the legendary consultant Peter Drucker. He said the whole point of an organization is to make common people do uncommon things. And the structure is the tool that lets you do that. It lets you balance that practical need for efficiency with that social need to be seen as the real deal.
Okay, enough with the theory. Let's make this super concrete. We're going to use our new toolkit to look at a battle you've probably seen in person, the grocery wars, pitting a familiar Canadian giant against a powerhouse global disruptor.
Just look at this. It lays out two completely different roads to success. On one side, you've got Loblaws. Their purpose is really broad, right? Live life well. That lets them do everything from discount grocery to high-end beauty products. And that requires a complex structure, lots of specialists and a tall hierarchy. Then you've got Aldi. Their purpose is laser-focused, high quality at the lowest price. And their structure is the total opposite. It's radically simple. Staff do a bit of everything, and the hierarchy is super flat. So you see, neither of these structures is fundamentally better. They're just different strategic weapons. Loblaws is using its complexity to dominate the market with its sheer scale and all its different brands. Aldi, on the other hand, is using radical simplicity as a weapon to attack on one single front, an unbeatable price. So where does all of this leave us? We've taken the organization apart. We've seen how these different blueprints can both lead to massive success. Now let's pull all these lessons together into a final game plan for your own leadership journey.
So what's the big takeaway here? First, and this is the most important part, forget about searching for the one best way to organize. It just doesn't exist. Your structure has to be a flexible tool, not some rigid cage you're trapped in. That means you've got to constantly make sure it's aligned with your strategy and the world around you. As a leader, you're always doing this balancing act, juggling the hard-nosed need for efficiency with that social need to look legitimate. And what that really means is that the future doesn't belong to the leader with the perfect static org chart. It belongs to the leader who can build an organization that adapts.
Which brings us right back to our original question. Is the traditional organization a relic? Well, the answer is no, but it's not a silver bullet either. The real goal isn't to find the perfect structure, but to build an adaptive one, a structure that can change and evolve right alongside your strategy and the world itself. So the final question really is for you. What kind of structure will you build?